Hiber-Nation 71. Grizzly's Growls presents Stories from the Hiber-Nation. Read by David Grizzly Smith. Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions, by Edwin Abbott Abbott, read by David Grizzly Smith. Part 2, Other Worlds. Section 17. How the sphere, having in vain tried words, resorted to deeds. It was in vain. I brought my hardest right angle into violent collision with the stranger, pressing on him with a force sufficient to have destroyed any ordinary circle, but I could feel him slowly and unarrestably slipping from my contact, not edging to the right nor to the left, but moving somehow out of the world and vanishing to nothing. Soon there was a blank. But still I heard the intruder's voice.
Why do you refuse to listen to reason? I had hoped to find in you, as being a man of sense and an accomplished mathematician, a fit apostle for the gospel of the three dimensions, which I am allowed to preach once only in 1,000 years, but now I know not how to convince you. Stay, I have it. Deeds, and not words, shall proclaim the truth. Listen, my friend. I have told you I can see from my position in space the inside of all things that you consider closed. For example, I see in yonder cupboard near which you are standing several of what you call boxes, but like everything else in Flatland, they have no tops or bottoms, full of money. I see also 2 tablets of accounts. I am about to descend into that cupboard and bring you one of those tablets. I saw you lock the cupboard door half an hour ago, and I know you have the key in your possession, but I descend from space. The doors, you see, remain unmoved. Now I am in the cupboard and am taking the tablets, and now I have it, and now I ascend with it.
Well, I rushed to the closet and dashed the door open. One of the tablets was gone. With a mocking laugh, the stranger appeared in the corner of the room, and at the same time the tablet appeared upon the floor. I took it up. There could be no doubt. It was the missing tablet. I groaned in horror, doubting whether I was not out of my senses, but the stranger continued,
Surely you must now see that my explanation and no other suits the phenomenon. What you call solid things are really superficial. What you call space is really nothing but a great plane. I am in space, and look down upon the insides of the things of which you only see the outsides. You could leave this plane yourself, if you could but summon up the necessary volition. A slight upward or downward motion would enable you to see all that I can see. The higher I mount, the further I go from your plane, the more I can see, though of course I see it on a smaller scale. For example, I am ascending. Now I can see your neighbor, the hexagon, and his family in their several apartments. Now I see the inside of the theater, 10 doors off, from which the audience is only now just departing. On the other side, a circle is in his study, sitting at his books. And now I come back to you, and as a crowning proof, what do you say to my giving you a touch, just the least touch, in your stomach? It will not seriously injure you, and the slight pain you may suffer cannot be compared with the mental benefits you will receive.
But before I could utter a word of remonstrance, I felt a shooting pain in my inside. A demoniacal laugh seemed to issue from within me. A moment afterwards, the sharp agony had ceased, leaving nothing but a dull ache behind, and the stranger began to reappear, saying as he gradually increased in size,
"There, I have not hurt you much, now have I? If you are not convinced now, I don't know what will convince you. What say you?"
My resolution was shaken. It seemed intolerable that I should endure existence subject to the arbitrary visitations of a magician who could thus play tricks with one's very stomach. If I could only in any way manage to pin him against the wall till help came. Once more I dashed my hardest angle against him, at the same time alarming the whole household by my cries for aid. I believe at the moment of my onset the stranger had sunk below our plane, and really found difficulty in rising. In any case he remained motionless, while I, hearing, as I thought, the sound of some help approaching, pressed against him with redoubled vigor, and continued to shout for assistance. A convulsive shudder ran through the sphere.
"This must not be,"
I thought I heard him say.
"Either he must listen to reason, or I must have recourse to the last resource of civilization."
Then, addressing me in a louder tone, he hurriedly exclaimed,
"Listen, no stranger must witness what you have witnessed. Send your wife back at once, before she enters the apartment. The gospel of 3 dimensions must not be thus frustrated. Not thus the fruits of 1,000 years of waiting be thrown away. I hear her coming. Back, back! Away from me, or you must go with me, whether you know not, into the land of 3 dimensions."
"Fool! Madman! Irregular!" I exclaimed. "Never will I release thee. Thou shalt pay the penalty of thine impostures."
"Ha! Is it come to this? Then meet your fate. Out of your plane you go. Once, twice, thrice. 'Tis done."
Section 18. How I Came to Spaceland, and What I Saw There. An unspeakable horror seized me. There was a darkness, and then a dizzy, sickening sensation of sight that was not like seeing. I saw a line that was no line, space that was not space. I was myself and not myself. When I could find voice, I shrieked aloud in agony, "Either this is madness, or it is hell."
"It is neither,"
calmly replied the voice of the sphere.
"It is knowledge. It is 3 dimensions. Open your eye once again and try to look steadily."
I looked, and behold, a new world. There stood before me, visibly incorporate, all that I had before inferred, conjectured, dreamed of perfect circular beauty. What seemed the center of the stranger's form lay open to my view, yet I could see no heart, nor lungs, nor arteries, nor only a beautiful, harmonious something for which I had no words. But you, my readers in Spaceland, would call it the surface of a sphere. Prostrating myself mentally before my guide, I cried, "How is it, O divine ideal of consummate loveliness and wisdom, that I see thy inside, and yet cannot discern thy heart, thy lungs, thy arteries, thy liver?"
"What you think you see not," he replied. "It is not given to you, nor to any other being, to behold my internal parts. I am of a different order of beings from those in Flatland. Were I a circle, you could discern my intestines, but I am a being composed, as I told you before, of many circles, the many in the one, called in this country a sphere. And just as the outside of a cube is a square, so the outside of a sphere presents the appearance of a circle.
Bewildered though I was by my teacher's enigmatic utterance, I no longer chafed at it, but worshipped him in silent adoration. He continued with more mildness in his voice,
Distress not yourself if you cannot at first understand the deeper mysteries of Spaceland. By degrees they will be drawn upon you. Let us begin by casting back a glance at the region from whence you came. Return with me a while to the plains of Flatland, and I will show you that which you have so often reasoned and thought about, but never seen with the sense of sight, a visible angle.
Impossible, I cried. But the sphere, leading the way, I followed as if in a dream, till once more his voice arrested me.
Look yonder, and behold your own pentagonal house and all its inmates.
I looked below, and saw, with my physical eye, all that domestic individuality which I had hitherto merely inferred with the understanding. And how poor and shadowy was the inferred conjecture in comparison with the reality I now beheld. My 4 sons calmly asleep in the northwestern rooms, my 2 orphan grandsons to the south, the servants, the butler, my daughter, all in their several apartments. Only my affectionate wife, alarmed by my continued absence, had quitted her room and was roving up and down in the hall, anxiously awaiting my return. Also the page, aroused by my cries, had left his room, and under pretext of ascertaining whether I had fallen somewhere in a faint, was prying into the cabinet in my study. All this I could now see, not merely infer, and as we came nearer and nearer, I could discern even the contents of my cabinet, and the 2 chests of gold, and the tablets of which the sphere had made mention. Touched by my wife's distress, I would have sprung downward to reassure her, but I found myself incapable of motion.
Trouble not yourself about your wife,
said my guide.
She will not be long left in anxiety. Meantime, let us take a survey of Flatland.
Once more I felt myself rising through space. It was even as the sphere had said. The further we receded from the object we beheld, the larger became the field of vision. My native city, with the interior of every house and every creature therein, lay open to my view, in miniature. We mounted higher, and lo, the secrets of the earth, the depth of mines, and the innermost caverns of the hills were bared before me. Awestruck at the sight of the mysteries of the earth, thus unveiled before my unworthy eye, I said to my companion, Behold, I am become as a god. For the wise men in our country say that to see all things, or as they express it, omnipotence, is the attribute of God alone. There was something of scorn in the voice of my teacher as he made an answer.
Is it so indeed? Then the very pickpockets and cutthroats of my country are to be worshipped by your wise men as being gods, for there is not one of them that does not see as much as you see now. But trust me, your wise men are wrong.
Then, is omnipotence the attribute of others besides gods?
I do not know, but if a pickpocket or a cutthroat of our country can see everything in your country, surely that is no reason why the pickpocket or cutthroat should be accepted by you as a god. This omnipotence, as you call it is not a common word in Spaceland. Does it make you more just, more merciful, less selfish, more loving?
Not in the least.
Then how does it make you more divine?
More merciful, more loving. But these are qualities of women, and we know that a circle is a higher being than a straight line, insofar as knowledge and wisdom are more to be esteemed than mere affection.
Well, it's not for me to classify human faculties according to merits, yet many of the best and wisest in Spaceland think more of the affections, then, of the understanding, more of your despised straight lines than of your belauded circles. But enough of this. Look yonder. Do you know that building?
I looked, and far off I saw an immense polygonal structure in which I recognized the General Assembly Hall of the States of Flatland, surrounded by dense lines of pentagonal buildings at right angles to each other, which I knew to be streets, and I perceived that I was approaching the great metropolis.
Here we descend,
said my guide. It was now morning, the first hour of the first day of the 2000th year of our era. Acting, as was their wont, in strict accordance with precedent, the highest circles of the realm were meeting in solemn conclave, as they had met on the first hour of the first day of the year 1000, and also on the first hour of the first day of the year 0. The minutes of the previous meetings were now read by one whom I at once recognized as my brother, a perfectly symmetrical square, and the chief clerk of the High Council. It was found recorded on each occasion that, whereas the states have been troubled by divers ill-intentioned persons pretending to have received revelations from another world, and professing to produce demonstrations whereby they had instigated to frenzy both themselves and others, it has been for this cause unanimously resolved by the Grand Council that on the first day of each millenary, special injunctions be sent to the prefects of the several districts of Flatland to make strict search for such misguided persons, and without formality of mathematical examination to destroy all such as were isosceles of any degree, to scourge and imprison any irregular triangle, and to cause any square or pentagon to be sent to the district asylum, and to arrest anyone of higher rank, sending him straightway to the capital to be examined and judged by the council.
You hear your fate,
said the sphere to me, while the council was passing for the third time the formal resolution.
Death or imprisonment awaits the apostle of the gospel of the three dimensions.
Not so, replied I. The matter is now so clear to me, the nature of real space so palpable, that methinks I couldn't make a child understand it. Permit me but to descend at this moment and enlighten them.
Not yet, said my guide. The time will come for that. Meantime I must perform my mission. Stay thou there in thy place.
Saying these words, he leapt with great dexterity into the sea, if I may so call it, of Flatland, right in the midst of the ring of councillors.
I come,
cried he,
to proclaim there is a land of three dimensions.
I could see many of the younger councillors start back in manifest horror as the sphere's circular section widened before them, but on a sign from the presiding circle, who showed not the slightest alarm or surprise, 6 isosceles of a low type from 6 different quarters rushed upon the sphere. "We have him!" they cried. "No, yes, we have him still. He's gone. "My lords," said the president to the junior circles of the council, "there is not the slightest need for surprise. The secret archives, to which I alone have access, tell me that a similar occurrence happened in the last 2 millennial commencements. You will, of course, say nothing of these trifles outside the cabinet." Raising his voice, he now summoned the guard. "Arrest the policemen. Gag them. You know your duty." After he had consigned to their fate the wretched policemen, ill-fated and unwilling witnesses of a state secret which they were not to be permitted to reveal, he again addressed the councillors. "My lords, the business of the council being concluded, I have only to wish you a happy new year." Before departing, he expressed at some length to the clerk, my excellent but most unfortunate brother, his sincere regret that, in accordance with precedent and for the sake of secrecy, he must condemn him to perpetual imprisonment, but added his satisfaction that, unless some mention were made by him of that day's incident, his life would be spared. Thank you for listening to Stories from the Hiber-Nation. Comment on the website at grizzliesgrowls.com. This program is offered under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.